Hello, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with another very important topic. And why I call this important is because we are going to discuss about natural relationships between planets. And it's very important because as we know that in a chart there are 9 planets as per the Indian system of Vedic astrology. We do not consider Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, which is considered as per Western astrology. And there's a reason for that, and I'm not going to get into that discussion. But why these 9 planets and the relationship between each other is important is purely because in the entire chart of 12 zodiac signs, these 9 planets are placed and they are aspecting each other, or they are conjunct each other, or they are situated in each other's rashis or zodiac signs. So it becomes extremely critical for us to understand whether they are friends, whether they are enemies or not. And why I call friends and enemies, because it's been given to us by the ancient sages that a planet, when it is placed in a good position, gives good results. And if a planet is placed in a bad position, meaning he could be placed in a zodiac sign ruled by an enemy, then it becomes afflicted or weak, and it starts to give bad results. So it's extremely critical to find the relationship between planets. There could be an aspect of a friend on another friend, which will be good in terms of planets, or if there could be an aspect of an enemy to a friend, that will be bad, because depending on the strength of how strong is one planet in relationship to the other and whether it's an enemy or not. So that way we can determine if a planet is afflicted by an enemy, it starts to give bad results. If a planet is sitting on an enemy's rashis, it starts to give bad results. If a planet is sitting in a friend's rashi or zodiac sign, it starts to give good results. I mean, that's one of the determining factors. There are other factors as well. So do not just consider this factor. But today we are going to be discussing this factor. And what is the relationship between the planets? There's something called a planetary war, which has been discussed by the ancient sages, that whenever a planet is in relationship with another planet in a zodiac sign, either through conjunction or by aspect, there could be a planetary war. And in that manner we have to see whether is there a war or not. If there are friends, then there's no war. If they're enemies, there is a war, and then the stronger one wins, and then the weaker ones is the planet which starts to give bad results. So these relationships, that's the reason why these relationships are extremely important for us to understand. But like I said, this is just one tool. Do not base all your analysis on a birth chart on just this factor. This is one of the factors. So we'll be discussing about what is the relationship of planets, these 9 planets, between themselves, so that we can understand it better. So if you see on the screen here, there is a little chart here, which is a standard chart given to us by the ancient sages. And it represents, if you look at the first row, not the column. So the first row will say sun on the left hand side in the first column, actually. And if you go along the row, moving from left to right, you will see sun's relationship with the other 8 planets. So on the first row you will see sun considers moon as its friend, because there's a friend mentioned here under moon. Sun considers Mars as its friend. Sun is neutral to Mercury. Sun considers Jupiter as its friend. Sun considers Venus as his enemy. So here there's a red flag right here. So whenever Venus is situated in a rashi or zodiac sign owned by Sun, you know exactly that Venus is sitting in an enemy Rashi. So you have to see other factor, of course, but one of the factors will be that Venus will not be able to give good results. Just this one factor, but once again I'm repeating, do not determine your analysis based on just this one factor. But this factor is an important factor, so we're discussing it. If you go to Saturn, Sun considers Saturn as its enemy, another red flag. So whenever Saturn is sitting in Leo, which is the zodiac sign of Sun, you see Saturn is a little afflicted, unhappy situation. Look at Rahu. Whenever Rahu is sitting in the zodiac sign of Sun, which is Leo, then of course Rahu is a little uncomfortable. Again, Ketu. Whenever Ketu is sitting in a zodiac sign of Sun, which is Leo, since Sun considers Ketu as its enemy, then of course Ketu is not going to give good results, because Ketu is kind of afflicted because it's in an uncomfortable position. Now look at the second row. Start from the column under Sun, Moon. Moon considers Sun as its friend. So whenever Sun is sitting in Moon's Rashi, because Moon is considering Sun as a friend, whenever Sun is sitting in Moon's Rashi, which is Cancer, it's a good placement. Moon considers Mars as its neutral. So whenever Mars is sitting in the Moon Rashi, which is Cancer, it will be neutral. However, so you have to be very careful. Whenever Mars is in Cancer, it gets debilitated. So it's not very comfortable. So of course, the relationship here between Mars and Moon is such that Moon does not consider Mars as its enemy. However, Mars gets debilitated in Moon's Rashi, which is Cancer. So it gets a little trickier here. Mercury. Moon considers Mercury as its friend. So whenever Mercury is sitting in Cancer, it's a good placement. As a matter of fact, Moon does not consider anybody as its enemy. That's a standard rule, except for Rahu and Ketu, because Moon and Sun, of course, they brought Rahu and Ketu, the demon, which were single body at that time in the form of Swarbhanu, to the attention of Vishnu when they were ready to, drink or steal rather the nectar of immortality. That's another story which probably I've discussed in another video of mine. So here again, if you go along the row from the left to the right, Moon is neutral to Jupiter. So whenever Jupiter is sitting in Moon's Rashi, which is Cancer, it's a good placement. Now, although it's mentioned here, Moon considers Jupiter as neutral and not as a great friend, we know that Jupiter gets exalted in Moon's Rashi, so it's an excellent placement. So again, it's a little tricky here. Why I'm going over this with you in individual planets is so that you can understand better that, of course, what a we're talking about planets, what a planet thinks about another planet may not be necessarily true as far as the net result or the impact of that planet sitting in the Rashi is concerned. So just like Moon may consider Mars as neutral in its Rashi of Cancer, Mars gets debilitated in the Rashi of Cancer. Similarly, Moon may consider Jupiter as neutral in a relationship with Jupiter. However, Jupiter gets extremely happy when he is sitting in Moon's Rashi, which is Cancer, meaning which is gets exalted. So it gets a little tricky. So once you start practicing, you'll understand a little more better. Look at the charts, see what zodiac signs they are placed, whether it's a neutral relationship, inimical relationship, or a friendly relationship, and then look at the other effects also, like debilitation and exaltation. Similarly, if you go along this row of moon considers Saturn as neutral. So whenever Saturn is sitting in the Rashi of moon, which is Cancer, a lot of astrologers may think it's a bad placement because it's in the Rashi of moon. But moon, since moon considers nobody as its enemy except Rahu and Ketu, Saturn will not be completely afflicted or uncomfortable in Karka, or the zodiac sign of Cancer. However, Rahu and Ketu are considered as enemies by moon. So whenever Rahu and Ketu are sitting in the Rashi or zodiac sign of moon, which is Cancer, they will not give good results because they'll be uncomfortable there. Let's go to the third row. Start from the column where it's written Mars, first column, and then go along the row on the right. Sun is considered as a friend by Mars. Moon is considered as a friend by Mars. So whenever Sun is sitting in the Rashi of Mars, which is either Aries or Scorpio, it will be considered a friend. It'll give good results. Mars considers moon also as its friend. So whenever moon is sitting in the Rashi or zodiac sign of Mars, which is Aries or Scorpio. Did I say Aries and Scorpio for Sun? I hope I did. So let me go back. Mars considers Sun as its friend. So whenever Sun is sitting in either Aries or Scorpio, it'll give good results. It'll be comfortable. Similarly, Mars considers Moon as its friend. So whenever Moon is sitting in Mars Rashi, which is Aries and Scorpio, it'll give good results. However, it gets a little tricky here again. Why? Because Moon, whenever it sits in Scorpio, it gets debilitated and uncomfortable, so it may give bad results. So be very careful. Look at this relationship of the planets as I've explained you, and then also look at the exaltation and debilitation signs as well, so that you don't get confused that, here as per the chart it's written that Moon is considered a friend by Mars. So whenever Moon sits in Mars zodiac sign, it'll give good results. No, in this case, since Moon gets debilitated in Scorpio, it may not give good results. Another thing, without going into all the planets in all the rows and columns, another thing I will tell you, that one planet may consider another planet as its friend. However, the other planet may consider that planet which considers it as its friend as neutral. So it's not a two-way street, which is similar. For example, Jupiter may consider Moon as its friend, but Moon may consider Jupiter as neutral. See the difference here. So be very careful looking and matching it with the horoscopes you study, your own personal horoscope, or your friends or clients, whoever's. Try to practice more and more, you'll understand. Don't make it a general kind of a rule saying that, okay, well, Jupiter and Moon are friends. No, Moon considers Jupiter as its friend. Moon considers Jupiter as neutral. However, Jupiter considers Moon as its friend. So there's a slight difference here. Similarly, if you look at certain planets in this chart, if you look at Saturn considers Mars as its enemy. Look at the Saturn on the left hand first column and go right and see under Mars, Saturn considers Mars as its enemy. However, if you look at Mars, it considers Saturn as neutral. So what does it say? That whenever Saturn is sitting in the zodiac sign of Mars, which is Aries or Scorpio, it may not give bad result, may not be that uncomfortable. However, whenever Mars is sitting in the zodiac sign of Saturn, it may get uncomfortable. Which is the zodiac sign of Saturn? Aquarius and Capricorn, because Saturn considers Mars as its enemy. However, again, it gets a little tricky because Mars gets exalted in Capricorn. So do not ignore the exaltation debilitation signs. There are certain planets which are completely similar. They will consider each as a friend to each other. Look at Sun and Moon. Sun considers Moon as its friend. Mars also and Moon also considers Sun as its friend. So it's a two-way street, which is very similar. Look at Mercury and Mars. Mercury considers Mars as neutral. As a matter of fact, it's neutral. And Mars considers Mercury as its enemy. So this two-way street is a little different. Mars considers Mercury as a big enemy, and Mercury considers Mars as neutral. So what does it mean? It means that whenever Mars is sitting in the zodiac sign of Mercury, which is Gemini and Virgo, it will give neutral results. It won't be that uncomfortable. However, whenever Mercury is sitting in the zodiac sign of Mars, just because Mars considers Mercury as its enemy, whenever Mercury is sitting in Aries or Scorpio, it'll be extremely uncomfortable. So these are the little relationships which are extremely important for us to know, because once we start to analyze planets, like I mentioned in the earlier part of my video, that there could be planetary wars, there could be planets which could be defeated or win in a planetary war. There could be situations where planet could get uncomfortable in certain rashis or zodiac sign. There could be situations where planets could get comfortable in other zodiac signs and rashis. So based on their comfort and uncomfort levels, they start to give good and bad results. But do not ignore the debilitation exaltation points, because they could be a little conflicting as far as this table is concerned. So hopefully you enjoyed this video, and in the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I will see you with an interesting topic very soon. Goodbye.